What's up, guys? Welcome to a new episode of the Young Guns podcast. So, the Edmonton Oilers have four players in the top 20 in terms of points this season in the whole NHL. So, yes, you have Connor McDavid, who had 86 points in 47 games, Leon Draisaitl with 72 in 45 games. They're the top two best players in the league in terms of points. But you have Zach Hyman, who is tied for 20th in points this year with 52 in 46 games, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins with 54 points in 47 games, and he is 13th in terms of points overall in the NHL. So, with these two guys being pivotal secondary scoring options for the Edmonton Oilers, is this the year that the Edmonton Oilers could potentially maybe win the Stanley Cup because they're getting these two guys stepping up? We always knew that these guys were put in a position to be secondary scoring players, but they're essentially exceeding expectations in terms of what they're capable of doing normally.
Yeah, well, and I think one of the biggest things too is that you got to you got to be able to look at this and say to yourself that you got to be surprised about this whole situation just because the Oilers haven't been fantastic this year. They've been okay. They've been good. They're in a playoff spot. They've won five straight lately. It looks like they're on the right track now to kind of come back to where they're supposed to be. And I think Nugent Hopkins and Zach Hyman have played a big role in that. But these are two guys that I think the Oilers needed to step up, and they did. And now, obviously, with Evander King coming back, I think that's just going to make things better. But, Zach Hyman is one that I want to talk about more than Nugent Hopkins, just because Zach Hyman has never put up this type of season in his career ever, right? His highest point total was last year with the Oilers and had 54 points, 27 goals, 27 assists in 67 games, and he was a point a game in the playoffs with 11 goals in 16 games. We all know how good and how important Zach Hyman was to the Leafs, and we all know how important he is to the Oilers right now. And he's playing some fantastic hockey. He really is. 52 points, 23 goals, 29 assists in 46 games, and it's only halfway through the year. This is a guy that I think is showing everybody that, he is better than what a lot of people gave him credit for in the past. And I think he's underrated. I think he's showing that he's a super underrated player that's got a lot of talent that's, helping the Edmonton Oilers. And he's been a big reason as to why the Oilers are where they are right now. And obviously with Ryan Nugent Hopkins. And Nugent Hopkins, listen, he's a guy that's a 50, 60 point guy, right? He's hit 69 points in his career. That's the highest he's ever had. He's at 54 this year. Last year, he had 50 in 63 games. This is a guy that he's good. He's very good. He wasn't a guy that has ever hit that 80-point mark. Was never that point producer that was going to go ahead and get you 80 points. But the Oilers have really gotten a lot out of their main guys in Zach Hyman, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and obviously Ryan Nugent Hopkins. And what's interesting too is that this is very good and it bodes well for the Oilers because it goes to show you that they're not lacking in the offensive side of the game, right? We knew that already. It's the defensive side of the game. And so for them, getting their secondary scoring, it helps them. And it goes to show you that all they really need is, defense, and they need to go ahead and get some defensemen. So in terms of that, I think, look, going into the playoffs and just setting themselves up nicely, they've got Zach Hyman and they've got Nugent Hopkins. They're getting Evander Kane back. Klim Kostin's had a really good uh, season as well when he's played for the Oilers. If the Oilers can get some depth scoring and add, a defenseman at the deadline or add a few pieces, this is a team that can go all the way. And when you got Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, you can always have be optimistic about that. But if Nugent Hopkins and Zach Hyman are playing at the level that they're at, the Oilers can be unstoppable. They really can.
And for years, a lot of people were saying that, they lack secondary scoring. They needed to, shelter McDavid. He was carrying the team on his back offensively. Then you have Leon Draisaitl, who takes the step forward, then helps him. He's his right hand man, right? The best dynamic duo in the league,
Yeah.
some say. And then you had Nugent Hopkins, who, for a first overall pick, you would think that this guy would be a 70, 80 point guy. But like you were saying, the highest he's ever reached was 69 points. He's a 50, sometimes a 40 point player. So it's kind of, underwhelming when you you look at where he was drafted in his respective draft year. But he's still a key piece to the Edmonton Oilers. He's been a key piece for many years, even when guys like Taylor Hall were there and Neil Yakupov and all those old players, the Edmonton Oilers alumni essentially. But they bring in Zach Hyman, a guy that always fell down in the depth chart in Toronto, with guys like Matthews, Nylander, Marner, Tavares, Bunting, and so on. So, Hyman, he's playing his best hockey with the Edmonton Oilers. Last season, career season, 54 points in 76 games, 27 goals, 27 assists. He is 2 points shy from tying his career total last season. And guess how many games?
Yeah,
30 games less in only
yeah,
46. He did it in 76. He has 46 games played and he has 52 points. That is fantastic. He's playing overall. I think he's been more of a I know I'm gonna get hate for this, but he's been more of a impact player than Nuge with his time with the Edmonton Oilers. And I know Nuge does a lot of things great. He's a centerman, he's a winger, he's very versatile in where you
yeah,
put him. He's done a lot for the organization, but you know, yeah, Zach Hyman is 30 years old. He is, essentially a late bloomer for most people when evaluating Zach Hyman, but he's just getting better and better. And Nuge, yeah, 29 years old. But it's just nice to see that they have a second dynamic duo in Edmonton, and that's Nuge and Hyman on the second line. And they have Dylan Holloway in the bottom six. Yes, there's the Pugliarvi rumors, but he's not that bad, even though he was drafted fourth overall in his respective draft year in the first round, so it's kind of underwhelming. But Vincent Desharnais has been generating a lot of excitement. You have Derek Ryan, Warren Fogle, Ryan McLeod. It's not that bad of a bottom six. Yes, it could be a lot better, but when you look back at the Edmonton Oilers years ago, when they had guys like Zach Hyman, playing in the bottom six, this is a whole completely different hockey team offensively. Like they're essentially, I would say, embracing the Toronto Maple Leafs mentality where they're going to score a lot more goals than, concede essentially. Like they're going to concede a lot of goals. They're going to outscore, sorry, uh, their opponents, but they're still going to concede a lot of goals. That's what I meant to say. And
yeah.
in terms of their goaltending situation, they never really had the best goaltending in the last decade. But with Jack Campbell, finding his game, it's nice to see. Stuart Skinner, he's an all-star for Christ's sake. He's going to a 2023 All-Star game. There's a lot of things to look forward to in Edmonton.
Yeah, well, and I think one of the things too is like obviously you mentioned Vincent Desharnais, just to let you know he's a defenseman, which is
He's
okay. But
well, he's playing on the fourth line, or he's playing as an extra defense.
yeah, extra defenseman. But anyways,
Whatever.
back to Nugent and Hyman. One of the things that's really interesting, and actually, if you go pay attention to their cap friendly, so Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Zach Hyman are signed long term with the Oilers. And Ryan Nugent-Hopkins makes 5.1 million. Zach Hyman makes 5.5 billion for the next million years, right? 6 years plus. So what's interesting about these two guys is that right now they're both overplaying their contract, meaning that they're playing better than what they're getting paid, right? And essentially, if you can get these types of numbers from guys that are your second best players in the sense that it's not Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid, and they're getting paid $5 million, that's exactly what you want. And so I think the Oilers, it's going to be very interesting to kind of see what happens here and how good Zach Hyman and Nugent Hopkins can be, not only in the future of their careers, but for the rest of the season, right? Are they going to be able to maintain this type of production? And I think not only that, but what helps about the Edmonton Oilers and what's always made the Edmonton Oilers so good is the fact that their power play is stacked, right? Ryan Nugent-Hopkins gets a lot of points on the power play. Zach Hyman gets a lot of points on the power play. It helps when you're playing with McDavid and Draisaitl. But one of the biggest things is that this is a team that can be deadly. They can be. And the Edmonton Oilers, I think we've talked about it for so many years. Like we've said before, they've always lacked goaltending and they've always lacked defense. If they can solve that problem, this is a team that going into the playoffs can be favorites to win, right?
Yeah,
They've got the pieces. They've got the pieces to do it. They've got the secondary scoring now. They've even got guys like Klim Kostin who plays a really good physical game and can put the puck in the net. This is a team that is allowing guys like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and these are players like I mentioned before in Klim Kostin. You mentioned Dylan Holloway. You mentioned Derek Ryan as well, Ryan McLeod. These are players that are allowing the Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and the Zach Hymans to shine, right? And now having Evander Kane back, well, it might lower Zach Hyman and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins' production a little bit, or it might just make the Oilers 10 times better than they already are, because now they're getting two really good lines back, essentially, and all they really need is to just bolster their decor, and they're going to be set. So,
Yeah.
um, I have no fear about that. My curiosity is, and I know we don't like to really make predictions on this video, but I just kind of want to know your thoughts, Chris. Where do you think Ryan Nugent Hopkins or Zach Hyman finish in the points this year? Do you think they both end
Well,
up being?
Zach Hyman, like 100%, he's gonna have a career year. He's two
Yeah.
points shy from tying his totals last year, which is 54. I see him finishing with, I would say, 70 to 75 points. And Nuge, same thing. I think this is going to be his best season yet. His best season was in 2018, 2019 with 69 points. And then the following year, he had 61 points in 2019, 2020. He hasn't really reached that production ever since. And even before that, he was a 40, 50-point player. So, 54 points in 47 games. I would say because they're on the same line, I think they're going to have the same amount of points, 70 to 75 points. I think they're both going to hit the 30 goal plateau, which is fantastic considering the fact that you have McDavid and Draisaitl. And these two are really important and pivotal parts for the Edmonton Oilers moving forward. The Edmonton Oilers are having a good 2023 schedule so far. They won the last 5 games. They beat teams like Tampa, Seattle, and Vegas, who are, top 10 teams in the league. So, yeah, those are my predictions in terms of Hyman and Nuge. And, Jack Campbell is getting hot. Stuart Skinner's having a great season. So, the only thing I would say that they have to adjust is defense. Maybe they could add a little piece in the bottom six, but, the Edmonton Oilers are getting hot at the right time at this point in the 2022-2023 season. So, guys, we'd like to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Where does Edmonton finish in the standings? What are your predictions for Hyman and Nuge? How many points will they finish with? Goals, assists. We want to hear everything. How important will they be in the playoffs? And what will the Edmonton Oilers do in terms of their the defenseman situation? What are the key pieces they're missing in order to go all the way? I mean, they lost in the Western Conference Final last year against the Colorado Avalanche, and they didn't even have this team. And not only that, like these players weren't as productive as they are this season heading into the playoffs in a couple of months. So we'd like to hear your thoughts. Guys, if you haven't subscribed already, subscribe to our channel, like this video, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Young Guns podcast. And also check out our Edmonton Oilers trade targets episode. We worked really hard on that. Yes, they're mostly, defensemen because that's the position that they need to improve on, and that's where they lack in. So make sure to check out that episode, and we'll see you very soon. Thank you so much for watching.